a scanning question or even two. So definitely still something to have prepared. Okay, so identify the grammatical construction of ut through sepeteret, because I'm not going to really bother reading through the whole thing first personally. So I'm looking for ut and sepeteret. So I got an ut. To me, that is some sort of subjunctive construction, and I don't see any words in front of it that are like so many or so great or anything like that. So I wouldn't say it's a result clause. I would say it's a purpose clause. That's all I would say. Purpose clause. Because of the ut. All right, then translate a phrase. Ad eas res conficiendas. We've got an ad and we've got an nd here. So that's one of those gerundives of purpose. For blanking blank. It asks you for the verb form of conficiendas. With the nd, it is a gerundive. Sorry about my horrible handwriting. And then translate the phrase for finishing or something like that. Definitely ing. Eas race. Those things or these things. Race is these. Or race is things, whatever. There you go. So you need both of those parts. G, to whom does Sibi refer? Sibi is for him or for them. So we needed to see who the them is in 6. So it's kind of context. For them, I think it's the Helweti. Because Orgetorix is planning stuff. So Orgetorix is here. He undertakes ambassador to the States for them. I think it's the Helweti. If I'm wrong, I will let you know. And then here's a random, you have to know it or you don't, question. What is one reason Caesar gives later in the Bellum Gallicum for attacking the Helvetians? So that's that tribe that had 2 narrow borders in book 1, and they wanted to go, they wanted to migrate. So Caesar wanted to prevent, the Helveti wanted to migrate to other parts of Gaul, and Caesar was friends with those parts, so he didn't want the Helveti to mess up the good thing he had going. So Caesar wanted to prevent the Helveti, remember it's complete sentences, from encroaching, I like that fancy word, on other tribes' territories. Complete sentence. I think he also didn't want them to go through the Roman province. You know, they asked to cross his bridge because they didn't want to go over the mountains and they were lazy. And he didn't think they would be able to resist plundering because they're just barbarians. So that might be another reason you could put. So that the last question of each passage is typically a context thing. Like you had to have that outside information. This one is like context from studying other parts of the book. The Virgil context question was like totally random. Like you just had to know it or you didn't. Okay, so those are the 2 main passages, and then there's one more. It doesn't have any questions. It's gonna be about this long. It's gonna be Virgil. I think it's because he's a little bit easier than Caesar, to be honest. It's going to be Virgil that we've never seen before, so there's nothing you can do about this. It's just going to happen. So I'll just tell you briefly how I would figure out context clues. But it's going to have the similar questions. It will only have 7, however, so it's not quite as important as the other 2. So we had 9 for Virgil, 9 for Caesar, and then 7 for this Virgil that we've never seen. Yeah, so similar questions to the Virgil passage because it's poetry. So I know it's Virgil. I know we've never seen it before. Oh, you also only get 15 minutes for this guy. All right, so context clues. It's from the Aeneid. It's from book 12. That's the last part of the Aeneid. That's the end of the poem. I personally have read it, so I know it's when Aeneas gets to Italy and fights the locals there to like establish his kingdom, and that will become Rome later. Other clues, looking through, I see quotation marks, so I know somebody's talking. There's one person talking and there's another person talking. So it's a conversation. That's another clue. In between those quotes, I can try to figure out who's talking. I see Jupiter. Thus Jupiter. So that means Jupiter said this first part. First Jupiter spoke, and then there's a goddess. She's being submissive. Okay. And the goddess is Saturnia, which means daughter of Saturn. So that's actually Juno. She's sometimes called that because she's his sibling as well as his wife. So, you know. So Jupiter said something and Juno responds. That's what the passage is talking about. Then I would just try to pick out words that I recognize and make a guess as to what's happening. At that point, once I've done all that, I would go back and look at the questions and then answer them the way I did previously. Something about arrival, supreme. Something final is happening now because we're in the end of the book, 12th book. There's lands and there's waves and there's Trojans. And then there's war. So, you know, Trojans went to different lands and on water, and then now they're fighting a war. There's something about a house. And then Hymenaeus is wedding. It's wedding songs. So, Jupiter wants, I think, to create a home and a wedding for Aeneas. Because of the, like, lands and waves and war they've been dealing with. Oh, I also see veto. Jupiter vetoes whatever Juno's doing. It means I forbid. Okay, and then let's see what Juno said in response. Something known or noted your voluntas looks like voluntary. So something about how Juno accepts his or like recognizes his will, Jupiter's will. She calls him great, so she's like being submissive, like we said before. And then there's this guy and lands, and then reliqui, left. I have left. So Jupiter's telling Juno not to do something, not to continue pursuing Aeneas, because we have that as background context. And Juno's saying something about how, like, okay, I agree, I won't do anything else. So that is, like, a rough guess based on context clues. I could read the whole thing for you, but I don't think you want 10 more minutes of this. So that'd be how I would approach it for the sight passage and then answer the questions. Looks like the most important thing is to make sure you answer all parts of the question and give them the information they require. So, like, make sure you give one and only one literary device. Make sure you give the Latin word or words, and write out the Latin. Like, you need to pay attention to the instructions, most importantly. I hope this was helpful. I'll do another couple of things to help you guys get set up for Tuesday. And yeah, one more week and we're done. All right, missing you guys. It's really boring being stuck at home. You should have seen our staff meeting today. We all looked like we were so over it. We wish we were back in school. Anyway, that's all for today. Walete.